So I'm here with Dave from Ohio State University. He's going to talk to us about his time in grad school's experience and kind of how he got to where he got to be. So, Dave, thanks for taking the time to talk with me here. You're one of the first people in this, so I really appreciate it.
My
Um,
pleasure, Evan.
but so just start off, could you give a quick little background intro on about yourself? However, how do you see yourself basically?
Um, I don't know. I'm kind of a jack of all trades, to be honest. Some people call it a polymath. Some people call it indecisive. Um, but I'm just a former Army combat medic that really thought education was important, and slowly, piece by piece, was able to hodgepodge something together out of it.
Well, it's great. Yeah. Thank you for your service. It's great to see other veterans in education and especially higher education because I don't know if it's true, but I was always told as a vet that the GI Bill is one of the most underutilized benefits, which is wild because it's one of the most valuable benefits to veterans. So glad to see some people getting out there. So what kind of science do you do?
That's a
And
good question. Oh, go ahead.
and and then how'd you choose that field?
Well,
Or maybe fields, you
academically,
said you're a lot.
yeah, I'm all over the place. It's a little bit of a mess, to be honest, but I like it that way. Um, Academically, I'm what's called a complexity researcher. So I study
Okay.
complex adaptive systems. Specifically, I look at how individuals, and that can be people, animals, single cells, computer nodes, whatever, how they change their behavior and their characteristics as they start to work together in groups, and then how that changes the meta characteristics of the group, and then how that feeds back and changes the individual characteristics itself. And that just interworking cycle. A lot of that's from the evolutionary perspective, but that's my PhD. My master's was in public health, undergraduate in bio, and another one in psych. And I've been doing a lot of veterans and military engagement and health research outside of academia. And I'm actually also doing that right now outside of my PhD at Ohio State.
Okay. That's awesome. So
Thanks.
is the field is it more like biology or it almost at first I thought you were talking about like almost computers or something, or is it like bioinformatics, I guess?
Bioinformatics is definitely adjacent. So it's
Okay.
I what I do is evolutionary complexity, but complexity science itself actually came out of physics and mathematics.
Oh.
So
Hmm.
yeah, it's really interesting. I suggest anybody who's interested look up the Santa Fe Institute. They do some really cool stuff. I had the pleasure of working out there for a summer. It was an experience like nothing else.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm an organic chemist, and I definitely one of the reasons that I stuck there is because there's no math. Uh,
Yeah.
so yeah, yeah. So like complex, we used to like the complexity theory, and I was like, yeah, yeah. So I'm not, I'm not all those advanced maths. I was like, what field is this? But no, that's great.
Organic
Thanks for.
chemistry is yeah.
So you said your specific, your research was in the evolutionary complexity. Um, so I guess could you go a little more specifically, like what part of evolution do you look at, or is it just kind of generally evolution, or
General evolution, I'm looking at how organisms evolve across boundaries of complexity. And by complexity, I mean like stages, as in like single celled organisms to multicellular,
Hmm.
multicellular into social, and social into the newer superorganism category. And that has a
Oh,
lot to do with that interplay between individuals deciding to work together in cooperative groups, becoming more specialized through division of labor, that specialization creating more group interdependence, and that synergy and efficiency between individuals relying on each other and being able to be more efficient through specialization, creating the ability for larger, more complex groups, to eventually where individuals are no longer choosing to be part of a group, they're obligate organelles within a larger whole.
huh.
Uh,
That's really interesting.
Very theoretical still, but we're working on fleshing out some of the lower level
I
factors of
no.
that.
So, and I'm sorry if this is like maybe a dumb question, but just so when you're talking about when they choose to be part of the, or when they no longer choose to be part of the whole, it's at an obligation. Is that at a cellular level, or can that be almost at like a social level? Because I like to read about kind of how society influences like personal behavior. Is that like kind of what you model as well?
Very much so, extremely so. In fact, the whole reason I'm studying this is because I saw these processes in play when I was deployed to Iraq. I was a
Mm,
medic, and when I was overseas, when I was on a small post or installation, part of a small team, everybody was a generalist. Like you went and you accomplished the mission however you needed to get that mission accomplished.
hmm
But when you went back and you were part of a larger group, like I was on the Victory Base complex for a while, you
hmm
had tens of thousands of individuals there. And we actually got written up Article 15 if we try to do anything outside of our role. If we saw people in the clinic that weren't our designated subpopulation, some of my buddies tried to build lofts in their bunks so they could like study and do correspondence courses while they were over there. They got in trouble for putting nails into wood. Like
Yeah.
it was serious. You did your job and that was it because there were other people being paid to be specialists in other areas. So this idea of like group size and specialization, and then depending on how specialized you were, how reliant you were on the other people within your group, and that cyclical funnel just it couldn't get out of my head. So as soon as I got back home, I just threw myself into studying it. And finally, I
That,
literally just last week defended my dissertation. Oh,
yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, yeah. I know exactly that kind of military logic you're talking about.
cool.
Yeah, I don't miss that. Yeah, I wish I had this. I can't think of one, but I know, especially like the nail, like the no nails and things. Yeah, I remember stuff like that. You could,
uh,
certain things you couldn't wear. Yeah,
oh,
Or-
I miss the clowns, not the circus.
yeah, yeah, that's exactly. I miss all. It was a terrible time. Well, I shouldn't say terrible time. It's if you look back and you describe to someone, they'd be like, "Why do you talk about this so fondly?" It's like, well, it was with my friends. I had so much fun. I was.
It's
I
absolute hell
explained
at the
like
same time.
deployment. Like I was like. Think of it as like a really dangerous like summer camp. And like most of the time it is summer camp. Just sometimes it gets really dangerous.
Sometimes it blows up, or
Yeah, like
it starts
sometimes it
shooting at you.
explodes. Some like sometimes yeah, people like shoot rockets or something at you. Sometimes you're like stealing your buddy's clothes when he's in the shower. All at the
Exactly.
same day. Uh, um so so speaking of your field of science, what's something that you think people misunderstand about your field of science? Or maybe like what's a common misconception or or maybe a trouble you have explaining it to people?
So my biggest issue is that almost nobody's ever heard of complexity science. It is starting to grow in awareness, but man, when I started this like 5+ years ago, nobody had a clue what that was. I didn't even know what complexity science was until I got to right before my PhD program.
Mhm.
I knew this interplay between these different dynamics and characteristics was something I was really interested in and wanted to study more, but I had no idea it was a complex adaptive system until I finally found my PhD advisor. And I was pitching this idea to him. He's like, "Yeah, that sounds like complexity science." So
Hmm. That's good. Kind of found you. Um,
yeah, exactly. Find the right
yeah, I
person
can.
eventually.
That can definitely be tough to understand or to explain to something they probably never heard of. Because at least like people always talk about organic chemistry being tough, but at least people have heard of it. Or I can
Yeah,
you'd be like, oh, medicine, like medicines, you make medicines or whatever. But yeah, that's gonna be tough.
yeah.
So what? So you answered it a little bit already, but what made you specifically want to pursue a PhD?
So I did my undergrad um back in the day. I finished it and I got out and started working in research and I really loved it. Like I,
Mhm.
I originally I originally didn't have a passion for science and research, but the more I got into studying, the more I got into like unraveling these mysteries that I was really intrigued in, the more I wanted to get to like the empirical method and actual scientific practice. And I actually started working at the Battelle Research Institute. They did a lot of COVID stuff during the pandemic, and then I was working for Procter and Gamble for a little bit in some of their
Hmm.
R&D labs, the James Cancer Hospital here in Ohio doing clinical trials, and I couldn't get enough. I loved it. Um, the grunt work of actually doing scientific research was just really appealing to me. The only problem was it was in areas that I just wasn't that interested in. And I figured
Yeah.
if I ever wanted to do my own research, I had to go back and get a master's and or a PhD, and I ended up doing both. So
No, I completely understand. I feel like I got into research. I don't want to say by accident, but I'm gonna be honest, when I got into it, I didn't really realize all what it entailed. I just knew I really liked synthesis and I wanted to do more of it and like make new things. That's all I knew about it. I didn't really understand like any of the behind the scenes. Like,
There's there's something about creating or finding, describing something new, something useful that just has this like magnetic draw to it, right?
yeah, and especially for me, it was like really since I liked because to me it was like I got to work with my hands, but also it was like higher level learning and just the creating of something. And I would like synthesis. I always tell people like if you're going to get into synthesis, you got to be ready for like it's just manic highs and lows because a lot of times it
Ah,
fails. But when you make something and it works, and it's like however you made it, especially if it's something that like crystallized and you see these pure spiky crystals, it is like one of the top five feelings in the world. You feel like a god.
man, I did OChem in my undergrad, so I cannot compare to what you did for your PhD. But I know even then, synthesis was just crazy frustrating. Like if you got
Yeah.
one little thing just a little bit off, none of it worked.
Yeah, but I'm sure I mean, it's similar with like your stuff to can develop all these things and like see where your ideas, like you said, that you're fleshing out where they actually come to life. It's just like, so
Exactly. And I think, science has to be like the new frontier, right? Like we don't get to go
mhm.
conquer any new lands or anything nowadays. If you want to find or discover something new, it's science, it's theory, it's understanding.
Yes, that's a great way to put it. It's not the only, but it is probably the most accessible frontier to people without, getting in a spaceship or trying to get the last pieces
Diving at
of
the bottom of the
Uncharted.
ocean.
Yeah, oh God. You ever see those creepy
Yeah.
dive videos? Oh, I got a bunch of those in my feed one time and I couldn't look away. It was horrible.
Yeah.
Sorry, getting off
No,
track.
that's okay. I'm there. I understand.
um, so you kind of just talked about this general desire to, know more. So where do you think that started for you? Was it when you were younger or like for me, like I didn't get, honestly, I wasn't always interested in like chemistry per se, but like, I was really interested in like dinosaurs as a kid. And that in my mind is what is this seed that ultimately led to this?
Oh yeah. 100%. I'm the oldest of three, and until my adopted older cousin came into the picture, I was the oldest of my entire grandchild generation too, and there were like
Mhm.
seven or eight of us. Um, but yeah, doing the I was the one who was always trying to teach the others, and I always wanted to know more. And I would just run out into nature, find bugs or cool rocks or whatnot, and do quote unquote experiments on them, trying to figure out more about them and things like that. Usually ended up making like some sort of sludge in a jar and shaking everything together. But you were just playing around trying to like figure out the world on your own as a kid. And
Yeah.
that sense of wonder and excitement and wanting to figure out the mysteries of the universe just never left me. It might have
Mhm.
been refined. I'm no longer shaking around jars of rocks and slugs and whatnot, but yeah.
Yeah, I feel like for a lot of people, I feel like it does start as a kid in some form and then eventually like it refines its way into what you ultimately end up in. Um, so you obviously like me and you had kind of, I guess, what do they call like non-traditional paths to STEM into just higher education. But if there was like someone that's an undergraduate now, what advice would you have for them if they want to get involved in a STEM career, whether that's a like an advanced degree or just kind of maybe in the field in general?
It doesn't get easier the older you get. I'm an older student. I took a few years off trying to figure things out between high school and undergrad. And then I did my undergrad, and then I did, well, in the middle of my undergrad, I did the army. And then I
Mhm.
came back, finished my undergrad, worked for a few years, and I was like, oh, I'll go back and do my master's and maybe my PhD. Every time I took time off and waited, it became tougher. Like I forgot stuff I learned before. And like the spinal fluid in your brain actually starts to dry up, and you're like your neurons aren't as snappy and the connections aren't made as quickly anymore. It just get it done when you have the opportunity. If you've got a way to pay for it, 100 times better. If you don't, I mean, work your butt off and find a way to get it done. Don't put it off. Don't wait. If you think you're going to want that degree, go after it.
I think that's something really important to think of because I know when I did mine, I was at kind of a crossroads and I was like, what do I do? And I was like, I feel like if I don't do this now, because I was also older, and I was like, I feel like if I do this now, or I don't do this now, I'm just never going to do it again. Like I'll say, oh, I'll do it one more year, but then it'll be, oh,
Yeah.
wait another year. And next thing you know, you just never did
Same here.
it.
When in my undergrad, I started like working full time. I actually worked a couple jobs full time and a couple part times, and it got to the point where I was like, "Oh yeah, I'll work up enough. I won't have to take any loans. I'll be able to pay for a semester." But then you're paying for living, and next thing you know, well, it's more important to pay rent and the grocery bill than it is for a semester. So I'll just wait another semester and push it off a little bit further. Next thing you know, it's 2 semesters, and it's a full year, and yeah, it's a bad cycle.
Yeah. So still on the advice side, what's a piece of advice that you wish someone had told you when you were starting grad school?
Um, Relax. I you and I have both been in combat. Like we've suffered like severe like reality.
Yeah.
Um, I worked myself up so much for my candidacy and for my dissertation defense. I was so stressed out, man, and I didn't need to be. As soon as it was over, post hoc, it was like, wow. I maybe I need to be a little bit stressed, but like 100th of what I was actually at. Just turn that dial all the way down. You'll still be fine. As long as you're doing the work and you're listening to your advisors, like you're going to be in good shape. If you've got quality advisors, they're not going to let you get to the point where you're going to fail. Well, they'll make sure they check you beforehand.
I would agree with that. That was something I struggled with in grad school. Was because you have just the imposter syndrome where you feel like, am I even doing good enough in general? But then, yes, people like us with our background, we have a hard time differentiating what level of like stress and urgency we should assign to a situation, and we usually just assign the highest priority. And
Well, especially when you don't know. You've never been on
yeah,
the other side of that. Yeah.
and yeah, I remember leading up to mine. I remember like I was going through my head, rationalizing it about all the reasons objectively on paper why I was going to pass and why it was in their best interest to pass me. And,
Exactly.
and I was
There are
like,
motivations here.
yeah, and I was like, my boss, she's a great advisor. She wouldn't let me get here if she thought I was going to fail because that would look bad on her. And like all these, like, just like trying to rationalize. I was like, yeah. And I remember I said, I was like, you know what? If they fail me, I guess I'll just throw my research in the trash. No, but not, no, not, that was like, but in reality though, I remember at one point I told myself like, I guess if I fail, like if I just fail, I don't do it again. So it's over either way. But yeah, I got there and it was the best presentation I ever gave, and no one asked any like pointed questions, and yeah, I passed. It was great. But yeah, relax. And I know, especially everyone, I feel like they get there, and when you're first starting, you're like, oh, I want to just do it all. But it's a marathon, not a
Yeah.
sprint. And even if you could conceivably publish 5 papers your first year, your PI is probably going to keep you there for at least 3 or 4.
Oh,
So,
yes. Oh, hell, if you're that productive, they'll probably keep you there for 5 or 6.
yeah,
And
they're like, well, there you
my,
go.
my master's advisor used to always tell me, nobody wins the Nobel Prize off of their thesis work.
Yeah,
So, I mean, what you're going to do is what you're going to do. It'll be good at the time, but it's nothing. It's not going to be earth shattering to begin with.
yeah. What's the biggest challenge you've had as a scientist?
Ooh, that's a good question. The work-life balance.
Hmm.
I know I just talked about not stressing out too much, but you're going to, and trying to figure out how you take care of family, home life, and how you take care of your work, and making sure you're achieving what you need to achieve for this degree. And you can take this and apply it afterwards, especially if you're in a STEM field. Like it's hard to draw that line because there's so much stuff that you want to be working on, you need to be working on, and that's also a passion of yours. Like you care about that. You wouldn't be getting your PhD in something that you don't care about. But at the same time, if you don't take care of yourself, if you don't take care of your relationships, if you don't take care of your home, like you're not going to have that foundation that you really need to build your work off of. So you got to make sure that you are allowing enough time to care for both sides of who you are as a person.
I think, yeah, I would agree. I know that's something I personally struggle with, and I know I see kind of everyone struggle at some point. How do you balance? It's hard to balance it, especially like you said, because one, you like it, and two, there are expectations of you, and some advisors are more, I don't know how. they're upfront about their expectations a little more, I guess I'll say.
Right. That's a good way to put it. Yeah, some
Uh,
might even be unrealistic, to be honest. And
yeah.
as a first time grad student, you probably don't know how to discern what that is
Mhm.
because you haven't been in this situation before. You don't know what expectations are reasonable and aren't. Um, Lean on your cohort mates, lean on your friends who are in grad school, make new friends if you can or if you need to. And if something doesn't seem right, there's a good chance it's not. So check. There are support systems built into every school where you can go and talk to somebody and they maybe find ways or systems that you can de-stress in and relax in. Yeah, but you do have to work. You do have to work. That's part of being a grad student. It's part of getting
Mhm.
these degrees. There are expectations. You can't just sit back for 4 or 5 years and just get your diploma. But if you're finding that you're not able to sleep or you're missing out on family time or an excessive amount of holidays and birthdays and things like that, check in with somebody because you might not be on the right path.
That's excellent advice, Dave. So like I said, you just defended on last Wednesday. Congrats
Yeah.
again.
Thank you.
What are your do you have any plans, aspirations? What are you looking towards?
Um, well, I'm going on a little family trip here at the end of the month. I'm actually, man, I take on too much. So I'm a Tillman scholar and I'm what's called a military community advocate here at OSU too. It's uh part of the National Veterans Leadership Foundation. And so we do programming for the military community here at the university. And for my final project, I decided to put on a symposium, which
Mhm.
is a lot of work that I did not know going into it, especially going into it in my final semester when I'm getting ready to defend. It's insane. But it's turned into this like big 1 day conference. We've got people flying in from all across the country,
Oh
and
wow.
it's on very loosely defined military and veteran related research and programs, things like that. I as a military community advocate, I did it all the way through my master's and all the way through my PhD. So I've been serving here longer than anybody else has in that role. And I've gotten a chance to kind of get around the university, and we're a huge university, and find a bunch of the different programs that we have going on, a bunch of the different research projects. Here at OSU alone, and I know I couldn't find everything, probably just scratch the surface. I found 951 different projects here at OSU that are related to military and veterans in some sort of way. None of them were connected, or very little of them were. Very few of them knew about the other groups and organizations that were working on these things. So we're bringing them all underneath one umbrella and kind of like educating everybody on what's going on. We've got a big poster session. We've got a bunch of keynote speakers and things. And then we're also trying to build new relationships and collaborations. So not only can this enhance the work that's currently happening, but we can
Mhm.
build infrastructure to do even more of this work. Um, Through this, OSU has also decided to hire me on as a researcher, which is fantastic. It's
Yeah.
kind of what I want to do. I like working in academia now. I've been doing some projects for the Ohio Department of Veteran Services, a couple other military connected groups here that are now operating through OSU to help me do research with them. And it's turning into this huge thing. I really love it. I really enjoy it. I want to use more of my dissertation work in that research. So I'm trying to start angling things where my dissertation project looked at how individuals coming together in groups changes their characteristics and changes the group's characteristics, and which feeds back into the system. Well, I want to take that same framework, that same concept, and apply it to some of our military and veteran work. I help work with the Central Ohio Beekeepers Association. We just started a veterans beekeeping school, which I
Wow.
never thought I'd be getting into beekeeping, and it's turned into this incredibly awesome thing. But the thing is, it's got this really cool therapeutic effect.
Mhm.
We're having people come back and saying, "Hey, my anxiety's not as bad as it was," or even my arthritis is not flaring up as bad as it was, and all this different stuff. And it looks like there's this nature-based human animal interaction type of therapy going on. So I'm looking into how these complex systems build us up in the military. But
Mhm.
then the flip side of that is when we're pulled out of the military, we separate and we no longer have that support, that prescribed purpose, what that does to the individual, how it affects them, and how we can try to make up for that in other ways, whether it's beekeeping therapy, whether it's, community engagement, whether it's finding purpose in work or other things like that. where we can help improve and maybe supplement some of those things that we lose when we get out. So there's a lot of things going on. I love the complexity research. I love being able to help out my brothers and sisters in arms through some of the work I do as well. But there's 100 different research projects that are all spinning up right now, and I'm excited about all of it. I just got to figure out how to balance it.
Yeah, that's really exciting. Glad to hear that, especially, the type of research you're in.
Well,
Yeah,
thank
that's
you.
really interesting because yeah, I can say, I remember when I got out, it was tougher than I thought. Like, and I had a plan. So, and so it was probably actually easier. But it was still tough. And I remember
Did you
thinking
go
like,
straight into academia?
no, so I went to college a little bit before I joined the army, but for whatever reason, I didn't realize that you needed to go to class to pass.
Funny how that
And
works.
so I actually I got like 5 semesters in, and then I was like, yeah, this is not working. I need to change something in my life. So I, enlisted, did my 5 years, and then I came back, finished up on the GI Bill. I want to say I got out in March, so I probably had like 5 months in between where I like worked some like odd jobs here and there. You know what I mean? But yeah, I just remember it was like so weird, and it was like, all right, well, you're done. Bye. And I was like, that's it.
Yeah,
Like, and
yeah.
I remember I drove home, and
Did you
I
have any
like, yeah,
TAP or anything like that? The transition assistance program,
yeah, there
or
was tap, but
it didn't seem applicable at the time, right?
no, it really didn't. And I remember that, like, I know they meant well, but it seemed like a very outdated advice.
Yeah.
And also, like, I remember like it was hard to, well, there were some things I just didn't care as much about because I knew I was going to college already. So I was like, any job I try to find is just like a temporary job for right now. So it wasn't like I was looking for a career, but so maybe it's more of I didn't make best use of the resources available.
And column A, column B, but to be honest, you probably didn't know how to make best use of them. And TAP is not well designed. It doesn't really give a lot of people, especially Army, Marines,
Yeah.
enlisted, the information they really need to kind of transfer successfully, transition successfully, excuse me. But especially if you're going from like the really rigid prescribed purpose environment of the military, and then you go into something like academia where everything is loose, there's no real command structure, there's
Yeah.
you can choose to do this, you can choose to do that. Nobody's going to yell at you if you don't get up at the right time and make it to class or things like that. That's a huge cultural environmental transition that a lot of us getting out of the military, especially if you're shortly off deployment, are just not ready for. That was my way. I told you I was in the guard when I deployed. I came back. We demobed or remobed, and within 2 days after getting back home from that, I was sitting in a classroom at Ohio State,
Oh,
and that
wow.
was not the right choice.
No, so
I was, yeah,
that's tough. Yeah, I was similar. I was not that bad, but yeah, I got out. I came back from deployment 89 days later. I was out of the army. And then yeah, like 5 months after that, I was in a classroom and I was like, huh. And it was just so I'll
this
tell you what
this is
though.
not the right universe. What's going on?
I tell
Yeah,
you what though, like the stuff in the army, like right place, right time, right uniform, that like turns out when you show up to class, it's way easier. Um,
yeah.
um,
You can be in your pajamas still. Nobody's going to care. It doesn't matter if you shaved or not. Come on.
yeah, no, you talk about especially with your research and there's the structure. I remember like I would get up when I first got out. I'd get up like I'd walk the dog, like go to the gym, apply to a bunch of jobs, like do all. I was so productive, and I'd be like, all right, it's 1 p.m. I don't know what else to do with myself.
Yeah, well, it's 1 p.m. I'm going to go drinking in like 4 hours. So what's going on now? Yeah.
Yeah, it's like okay. And then I remember like one time I went to a class and I didn't feel good and I shouldn't have gone to class. I should have just not gone and emailed the professor, been like I wasn't feeling well. And my friend was like, "You look like garbage." I was like, "Yeah, I did not feel good." And they're like, "Why didn't you like just not come?" And I was like, it
That's
literally didn't
confident.
compute in my mind that that was even a possibility for me to do. Because I was just like, I
Yeah.
just have to be here. This is where I'm supposed to be. So like, yeah, even if the structure isn't there, your brain tries to apply it to things and hold you to a standard that you're not actually being held to, which I found to be difficult in some situations because you're holding yourself to a standard that doesn't exist anymore and you're making yourself miserable.
You are. And you're completely untethered. Like once you
Yeah.
get that realization of, oh, I didn't have to come. Oh, I didn't have to wear this particular outfit. I didn't have
Yeah.
to shave. I can sleep in till 1 p.m. or I can go drinking or whatever the entire night
Yeah.
beforehand and skip my morning classes. Once that starts to happen, like this strong tether that's been grounding you, usually by force through the military, starts to unravel, and you just, I mean, you're off spinning whatever direction. That's for me, that's when I actually, unknowing to myself at the time, got connected with this whole human animal interactive stuff. I got a dog. Literally, as I was getting out, I was a chaplain told me, "Hey, people have been through some of the stuff you've been through. Sometimes find benefit by getting a dog when they get back home." I was like, "Why would I get a dog? I'm just going to go to school. I'm throwing myself into school full force." I happened to be seeing somebody at the time who was in the veterinary school, and they're like, "Oh, there's these cute puppies at the shelter. Let's go look at them." I got a dog. Short of that story, and I'll tell you, I had him for 16 years. He just passed away a couple years ago. That dog grounded me like nothing else. I had to be home to feed him at certain times, to walk him at certain times. I had to make sure I could schedule his vet appointments. Like I had to like structure my life so I could train him and structure his life. That little seed, that little nucleation point gave me the structure I needed in my life. I'm sure there's different things for different people, but that really, if it wasn't for my dog's name was Orion, if it wasn't for him, man, I would not be a PhD right now. Just wouldn't.
I I have a dog. I got him right before my deployment. And yeah, I had him like when I went back, and yeah, I when I moved, and then you're right. Yeah, there were some days where I was like just miserable. I was like, well, I gotta feed him, gotta walk him, I gotta make money so I can buy him more food,
Yep.
and
If it was
because I
just
don't
me,
know,
screw it. I can sleep. I'll sleep all day. I won't eat tomorrow. That's fine. But if
yeah,
it's for the
but
dog, I got to do it.
yeah, and he was my buddy who would just sit there and hang out, watch TV with me, and he's still alive. I still love him. But he's he's I don't he doesn't need to be my emotional support dog anymore. But I exactly what you said. It's that anchor. He was you need something else to anchor to, and he was my anchor. He's a little bud. But
No.
so moving on. So I have two more questions. So one is so someone on a video yesterday, because I made a video like what would you want to ask someone that's a like if you're thinking about a PhD, what would you want to ask someone? And so someone asked, how do you know if someone would be a good committee member or a bad committee member? Like, what are red flags and green flags you would look for? So I thought that was a good one.
That is a good one. Talk to the people in their lab. Get them get them alone outside of their presence, maybe outside of the lab, outside of the department, whatever. Go take them out for a drink or something when you're visiting. Talk to the other students working in the lab. They might not say it directly, if it is a really bad advisor or committee member and they're afraid of reprisal, but you'll be able to pick up on that. But if they are a great advisor or committee member, they will be gushing about them constantly. I was fortunate. My PhD advisor was fantastic. He was even even headed. He was fair. He was supportive when he needed to be. He gave me directions when he needed to be, but he also knew when to back off and let me do my own thing. Sometimes I was learning the hard way.
Mm-hmm.
Never overstepped. Was never like over pressured me into anything or tried to take advantage of me. He was just fantastic. And I could tell that by talking to the other people in his lab beforehand. Looking back on it now that I'm graduated, I didn't realize how much information I was picking up on that. I was like, oh, this is just a cool lab, a cool place to be. All these people seem to be enjoying themselves here.
Mm-hmm.
But when I looked around at some of the other people in my cohort and their advisors and committee members, like they're going through hell. And you probably could have seen that from their previous students if you would have known that when you went to check them out.
Yeah, that's what I tell people too. Is like especially on those visitation weekends, if you get one, yeah, talk to the people because yeah, like one way or another, they'll tell you if they really like their PI, they'll tell you. If they really don't like their PI, they'll tell you. Unless, like, so they're like, some of them are really afraid. But also, I thought it was interesting. There were some people that I could never have worked for them as a PI. They do great work, but I personally don't agree with maybe their philosophy or how they, but I heard so many things about having them as a committee member where it was like opposite of what you would think. They'd be like, "Oh, that person was on my committee. He was super chill." I was like, "That's wild," because I've like watched him verbally like berate his students and like expect so many hours of them. And I had a guy on my committee. He's a good guy. I really liked him just in general, but he was a newer professor, so he had the kind of the group where they worked Saturdays as well. There was expected longer hours of them, and he was always upfront about it, but I was like, I could never work in that lab. But I had him on my committee, and he was a great committee member. He would like he, I don't want to say he was easy, but he wasn't the one I felt like would ask me the really tough question. And none of my committee members I ever felt were out to get me.
Oh
But
no.
some of them, they would ask ones that I was just like, oh my God. I remember the one guy, the one committee member, he asked me about the entropy of something. And I was just like, I've literally never once thought about that, but damn, is that relevant?
Great. Now I'm realizing this at the end of my time here.
Yeah, he asked me in my prelim, and I was just like,
Oh, really?
ah, wow, that's a good question. Uh, but yeah, so yeah, I will say there's some people that they can be a good member of your committee, but not PI, and there's probably some the
Yeah.
other way as well.
Well, committee is a lower buy-in too,
Yeah,
than your PI or advisor. Committee members, they are there to support you. They're to interact with you. But I know me going through, if I didn't need to interact with my committee, they weren't pressing for it. So it's
yeah,
not like they were sending me checkups every week or so. No, I had to approach them and see what they wanted. And when they got there, yeah, they still cared about the work. They cared about my development, but they weren't there to try to like pin me to the
get you.
wall or anything.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
wasn't that much investment for them.
Um, okay, well, and then I'll have well, actually I've skipped one, so I guess I'll ask you. So I said two more, but there's two more again.
I'm
So
here.
what you talked about, you were a Tillman scholar. So I know some about it because I did apply at one point. They didn't pick me. Oh well. But
All right,
uh,
I applied four
but
times.
yeah, no, I did too. I made it farther the first round. The first time, if I'm being honest, the second time, I thought the deadline was like later than it was. So my application wasn't, I think, as robust as the first time. But it's whatever. But so just people out there that don't know about it, especially if there's other like veterans listening, can you just give, I guess, a brief little, what was your time like that as a Tillman scholar?
Oh, my time hasn't ended. I'm going to the Pat Tillman Leadership Summit on Wednesday. It, it's it is a community that's just like nothing else. I mean, it's military centered, and it can you can be military family too and be a Tillman scholar, but it's a brotherhood, and they are some of the most incredible intellectual and just kind and accepting people you'd ever meet. They're all doing insane things on their own. They have this incredible ambition, and then the foundation there is there to support them and just invest in whatever their impact's going to be in the world. Um, for people who don't know, Pat Tillman was a professional football player. After 9/11, he chose to join the Army. He was a Ranger, died overseas under questionable circumstances. And he was an incredible person. That's the first thing you learn is that this foundation was created because the impact that his personal life had on everybody around them. And that they break that down in the foundation by four different characteristics: service beyond self, a scholarship, kind of like being a lifelong
Mhm.
learner, humble leadership, which let me tell you is really hard to write about how much of a humble leader you are in an application, and then just impact. The thing Tillman says is that they are not, this is not it's called a scholarship, but it's really a fellowship. And it's not a payment for what you've already done, because everybody in the military has done something, whether they take credit for it or not. Everybody who's reached this level in academia has done something. It's an investment in what they see that you're going to be able to have in the future. So
Mhm.
they're supporting whatever your impact's going to be, whether it's local, whether it's global, whatever changes you're making to this world, that's what they want to invest in. And then throughout the year, they provide a lot of opportunities for engagement, self development, leadership development. They also will help with stipends to conferences or things like that. And then once a year, we select the new 60-ish scholars, and each year we get more and more applications, so it's a smaller sliver of the pool. And then we all come together at the Pat Tillman Leadership Summit. We welcome the new scholars, we reconnect with each other, those that we haven't been able to see throughout the year, and we go through some leadership and developmental stuff too. Some programming that they curate for us.
Mhm.
It's great. I like a couple of months ago, I was on a Zoom call with a guy in the International Space Station, another Tillman scholar.
That's awesome.
It is. It's just like I would never make that connection anywhere else. And I feel personally extremely humbled to be a member of that organization. Just seeing the incredible drive and incredible things that those people are doing. Oh, it's a cherished membership for me, and I really love being a part of it. And just I hope that I can live up to that
Yeah,
honor.
that's great. Thank you. Yeah. If there's any veterans watching, yeah, make sure, you can apply. Because you can apply, I believe, for any discipline, right? There's no
Oh
discipline
yeah,
restriction.
any discipline, any academic level, undergrad,
Mhm.
graduate, professional, master's, PhD, doesn't matter. They will, if you get accepted, you get a relatively decent stipend throughout the remainder of whatever your program is, and then you get inclusion into the fellowship for the rest of your life.
Yeah. And then, all right. So for real, this is the last question. What's the favorite part? What's your favorite part of your research or your field?
Can I give you two?
Yeah.
I love the people, whether it's the
Mhm.
people I'm working with in the lab, whether it's the people I get to talk to because of the work, like at conferences or just in different parts of the university and things like that. I love that aspect of it. But I also love the thing we are talking about earlier, like the final frontier sort of thing, where you get to go out and create your own little section of the world, like
Mhm.
discover these mysteries that other people haven't done before. It's completely unclaimed territory for you. That's really exciting for me. And knowing that I can use that to help benefit society or my brothers and sisters in arms or whatever it is, like have some sort of positive impact overall, it's just awesome.
That's great. Yeah, that's great that you feel like, yeah, that feeling of accomplishment, you can benefit people. That's great how it's just great research in and of itself, but the fact that you can tie that into your own personal experiences, things that you're passionate about outside of the pure science of it. I think that's really great. Now you're going to be able to take that forward like as, your own independent research career now. So that's
Absolutely.
great. Well, thank you for doing this again, Dave. Everybody, that was Dave from Ohio State. The
Thanks, guys.
Ohio State, I should say, I guess.
That's right. Don't forget the article.
So I gotta ask. So, this is not related to academic. Is there another Ohio State? Do you guys say that? Because I know there's Ohio University, but there's not another Ohio State, is there?
No, but way back in the day, there was a real big argument between Ohio State University and Ohio University over which one was the state's university. And that's why
Mm,
OSU, like, they trademarked the Ohio State
the
University.
Ohio
So
State.
they're the Ohio State's university.
Okay. Yeah. No, I remember the first time I heard that, I was like, "Is there another one?" Like,
Yeah.
kind of. How there's like Miami, Ohio, and University of Miami. So I'm like, okay, I can see that mix up. But I was like, is there another Ohio State? I was like, but, um, yeah.